Good morning, collective. How we doing today? Hope we are feeling blessed, even if it is blessed to be stressed, my boy. All right, so let's just dive into some real quick shit. I won't make this very long. Welcome to the waking hour. Today we're doing something a little different. So, I'm gonna have to read this script because I didn't come prepared. Instead of looking at headlines, we're doing something to take a deeper look at the long form of narratives. The ones that shape our There we go. I think that's better. All right. Look at long form narratives that shape our world. Yeah, okay. Take a deeper look at the long form narratives that shape our world. The personal stories. And the hope that emerges from the most complex places. Our conversation today is inspired by a deep, detailed account of a man who was in courtrooms today. He's watched events of the 36 years unfold within. We're going to take a deep dive into what's really going on behind the scenes in the courtrooms. Jeffrey Sachs took a stand today. He's watched events over a 36-year span. And from the inside, he has watched all this unfold. From advising governments in Eastern Europe to knowing American political leaders firsthand. He's an observer who believes that we are not seeing a series of random events, but a long-term project. He argues that for more than 30 years, the United States have He argues that for more than 30 years, the United States have operated with a belief in its own unipolarity. The United States has operated with a belief within its own unipolarity. A world where it doesn't have to heed to international obligations or red lines of the others. Right. We've become so pompous that we are separate from everything. We're even separate from humans now. He points out that eastward expansion of NATO as a primary example of the project, he says, was set in motion in the 90s, despite earlier assurances to the contrary. He's spoken of conversations with people at highest levels of power, and he describes a foreign policy model that plays He's spoken to conversations with people at the highest level of power and describes a foreign policy model that plays non-operative game theory, one where negotiation is replaced by an attempt to overthrow and provoke. That sounds familiar. Our source believes that this long-term strategy, this American project, has cost Europe its voice in its own foreign policy. Again, sounds familiar. Echoes their own citizens of this country. And it has led to a series of wars in the Middle East and in Africa. But he says that unipolar world is changing. He sees a new, more diverse world emerging, where the voices of China, India, and African Union are growing stronger. He believes this shift, while creating anxiety in the West, is a positive development that could lead to more equal and open future opportunities if we can avoid the catastrophe. But how does a person navigate a world with so many hidden truths and compelling narratives, right? Our conversation has also been deeply personal. Now, me personally, I've also been on a personal journey. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on global politics. I don't care to invest in it, but it is relevant since everybody else chooses to follow this stuff. Well, they don't follow it, but they choose to give consent. Okay, so while on this personal journey, where I describe as 3 different phases, the I, the M, and the E eras, the M era was a time of immense darkness and betrayal. I shared lyrics that spoke of feeling like a fucking waste, and of heavy guilt, the grief that I carry from the loss of my grandpa. I felt like a freak show. Back in, yeah, that's for the real fans. He's felt like a freak show. Yeah, I have. Performing my pain for the amusement of others, simply for a kick. If it serves for something for them, then I guess I served my purpose. It was, a time of profound struggle and a feeling of being caught in this horrible storm. But then came a shift. I declared my independence. Not just from my financial systems, the strawman debt and all that bullshit, but from every idea of being defined by my past. I call this an affidavit from the Act of David. It's a declaration, basically. My own self-affirmation. My true self, my sovereign will, is the only authority. And it transforms from a voice of despair into a voice of defiance, of resilience, of authority, even. It's a person who is ahead and keep on walking, who just nods his head and keeps on walking. I'll be putting that song out today. Nod my head and keep on walking. I nod my head and keep on walking. While my critics, it's just another bird song, another rockin' robin. Just another fucking rockin' robin, right? This is a story of a person who has done a deep dive into the 10th power of his own life. But by building his own framework, I like to speak in the third person sometimes. I feel that helps it resonate with the collective as well. But by building this framework for meaning, I recognize that the pain is not an isolated event, but part of a larger homogeneous story. It's a human story, and I'm on a path that is hoping to help describe this as the chosen one, because I chose us, not as a figure of myth, but as a person who actively chooses to find meaning, to build, and to try to help and heal others. I believe that the future is not pre-written. There's things you can always change. At any moment you can change. I don't like to think that the future is pre-written, because that really limits your ability, and that's just silly. we have the solutions for food, energy, and education right now. We just need the niceness, the calmness, and the will, really, to work together. I do have hope that this generation, and hopefully yours, will be the one to do this work. This is a story of the one and all's pain, the one and all's journey from a complex past to a hopeful future. And it's a reminder that, great struggles of our world and great hopes are often found in the same place. Be blessed, be kind, be you.